73%. I want you to just imagine sitting on your couch, turning on the morning news.
Yeah.
And 73% of meteorologists are looking dead into the camera, telling you that a Category 5 hurricane isn't just, forming offshore. It is actively ripping the shingles off your roof, right at this very second.
Yeah, you wouldn't be casually taking notes for next hurricane season. You'd be dragging your mattress into the hallway.
Exactly. You're bracing for impact.
And when a threat of that magnitude is already inside the house, you drop the theoretical debates. I mean, you immediately move into survival and response. The abstract suddenly becomes this very stark, undeniable reality.
And that reality is exactly where we're sitting today. But, well, the storm we are talking about isn't weather.
Right.
That's 73%. That is the number of security professionals who report that AI-powered cyber threats are hitting their organizations right now.
Yeah.
Not in some dystopian sci-fi future. Today.
Today, yeah, it's wild.
So welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to demystify a massive new release, the State of AI Cybersecurity 2026 report. We're going to look under the hood of the digital landscape to see how the very nature of our safety is shifting.
And to do that properly, we're pulling from the raw data in that 2026 report, but we're also synthesizing it with some heavy-hitting analyses from Gartner, Darktrace, and the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology.
NIST, right. It is a massive amount of ground to cover.
It really is. And honestly, some of the data reads less like a technical manual and more like a high-stakes thriller novel.
It does. But I want to set the tone right out of the gate for you listening.
Right.
While the mechanisms we are going to talk about will occasionally sound like straight-up science fiction, these are very real, very actionable threats.
Actionable being the key word there.
Exactly. Our objective here is absolutely not to induce panic, because panic, it shuts down the brain. We want to arm you with awareness.
Yeah, because once you see the actual machinery behind these attacks, how the gears actually turn, they stop being this invisible monster under the bed. They become something you can anticipate.
Right. Knowledge only protects you when you understand the mechanics behind it. So to understand the modern threat landscape, we first have to look at a fundamental shift in the attacker.
Right. The nature of the attacker has completely changed. If you still picture a hacker as a person in a dark hoodie furiously typing on a keyboard at 3 a.m.
Which is what every movie still shows.
Right. But if you picture that to break a firewall, you are picturing a bygone era. We have completely transitioned from human-operated tools to autonomous systems.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we need to draw a really thick line between AI as a tool and, AI as an agent. The terminology gets thrown around a lot.
It does. But the distinction is everything. A tool is passive. Think of the AI we were using even just a couple of years ago, like a highly advanced calculator or a sophisticated spell checker. Hackers would use an AI tool to draft a highly convincing phishing email, or maybe to generate a specific snippet of malicious code. But the AI just sits there waiting for a human prompt.
So it generates an output, and then the human has to take that output, package it, and deploy it.
Exactly. The human is the bottleneck in the operation.
But agentic AI, which is what the report focuses on, that's a whole different beast.
Oh, completely.
It's like the evolution of warfare. We've gone from a remote-controlled drone where a human is always on the joystick, constantly managing the throttle and targeting, to a fully autonomous heat-seeking missile. The missile is given a target, and it decides on its own how to maneuver, how to adjust its speed, how to bypass countermeasures, all without a human ever touching the controls again.
That analogy captures the autonomy perfectly. Agentic AI systems set their own micro goals. A human operator might give it a broad directive like infiltrate this hospital's financial server. The AI then breaks that down. It decides to scan the perimeter, it identifies a vulnerability, it writes the code to exploit it, and crucially, if it fails, it adapts.
Without a human pressing another button.
Exactly, all on its own.
And Gartner's data confirms this is actively happening in the wild. They specifically highlight something called exploit chaining. The report says 45% of organizations cite automated vulnerability scanning and exploit chaining as their second biggest AI threat.
Yeah.
But, I hear exploit chaining, and I picture a hacker linking a bunch of small viruses together. How does that actually work mechanically?
Well, it's actually more devious than that. A single critical vulnerability, like a massive open door, is rare and usually patched quickly. But networks are full of tiny, seemingly harmless misconfigurations.
Like what?
Like a leaky printer driver over here, or an outdated calendar plugin over there. Exploit chaining is when the AI finds one low-level bug to get a tiny foothold, uses that to access a slightly higher level bug and just strings them together.
Oh.
Yeah, it strings them together to elevate its privileges until it has the keys to the kingdom.
So it's not looking for an open vault door. It's looking for a cracked window, squeezing a wire through that window to snag a set of keys on a desk.
Right.
Using those keys to unlock the basement and then disabling the alarm from the inside.
Yes. And traditionally, chaining those specific exploits together took weeks of meticulous research by a human hacker. An agentic AI does the math on millions of combinations in seconds.
That is terrifying.
What's truly chilling is the persistence. In penetration testing scenarios, which is ethical hacking used to test defenses, researchers unleash these agentic AI models.
Okay, and what happens?
The agents attack continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They never sleep, they never take a coffee break, and they never get bored or sloppy.
Jeez.
If a firewall blocks their first attempt, the AI instantly analyzes the failure, reverse engineers the block, formulates a new tactic, and strikes again.
Which naturally makes me think, wait. If these AI agents never sleep, operate at superhuman speeds, and constantly adapt, are human defenders just entirely outgunned here? I mean, the math just doesn't seem to work.
The math of a human trying to manually patch firewalls against a machine, pivoting its strategy 1,000 times a minute. No, that definitely doesn't work. Humans lose that battle every single time.
So what do?
We fight fire with fire. The data shows that 67% of companies have deployed their own agentic AI for autonomous security operations. The modern firewall is literally an autonomous AI actively fighting another autonomous AI in real time.
Okay, I have to push back on that a little bit. If you have an autonomous AI defending, say, a hospital network, and it has the power to instantly shut down systems to stop an attack.
Yeah, I see where you got.
Couldn't it get spooked by a false positive and accidentally shut down life-saving medical devices? How do we trust a machine with the defense?
Look, it is the exact question keeping chief information security officers awake at night. The solution right now involves strict behavioral parameters. The defensive AI is usually ring-fenced.
Meaning what?
It means it can autonomously isolate a compromised server, but it requires a human on the loop, meaning a human overseeing the macro decisions before it can shut down a critical care network. But as the attacks get faster, the pressure to remove that human oversight to increase reaction time is growing immensely.
So for you, listening to this deep dive, what is the practical takeaway? You obviously don't have an enterprise-grade AI security agent guarding your personal laptop. This is why the old advice of keeping your software updated has radically changed in urgency, hasn't it?
It has. Historically, when Apple or Microsoft released a security patch, you had a grace period. It took human hackers weeks to reverse engineer the patch to figure out what vulnerability it was fixing and then write an exploit for it. Now, the moment a patch is released, agentic AI ingests that code diff, synthesizes a weaponized exploit in a matter of seconds, and begins scanning the entire internet for any device that hasn't run the update.
So the grace period isn't weeks anymore.
No, it's minutes. When you hit Remind Me Tomorrow on that software update, you are leaving a known, documented vulnerability exposed to a machine that is actively jiggling every digital doorknob on Earth.
Wow. Okay, so the relentless speed of agentic AI is terrifying, but speed is only half of the modern threat landscape. The other half is how accessible this capability has become.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. It's one thing to have a hyper-advanced autonomous weapon. It's another thing entirely when anyone can buy one. We are seeing a complete collapse of the barrier to entry, which leads us to the commercialization of AI cybercrime.
Yeah, you no longer need to be a coding genius or a cryptography expert to launch a devastating attack. Honestly, today, you just need a credit card.
It's crazy.
The productization of cybercrime is staggering. A year or two ago, the concern was tools like WormGPT or FraudGPT.
Right, those were essentially jailbroken versions of AI chatbots.
Exactly. Intentionally stripped of their ethical guardrails, trained to help hackers write malware.
Yeah.
But the ecosystem has evolved way past bespoke code generation. Darktrace's cybersecurity team is reporting a massive market for prompt playbooks being sold on the dark web.
I read about these playbooks, and it blew my mind. When I first heard playbook, I thought of like an IKEA flat pack kit.
Okay.
Like you buy the instructions and you build the scam yourself. But it's actually much more dynamic than that, isn't it?
Oh, much more. A prompt playbook is essentially a live, dynamic, social engineering script. Let's say a scammer gets you on the phone or in a chat. Instead of relying on a static script, the attacker feeds your live responses into their AI, which is running the playbook.
Unbelievable.
The AI acts like a real-time earpiece. It analyzes your tone, your hesitation, your objections, and instantly generates the exact psychological response the scammer needs to say next to manipulate you.
It's like a malicious digital Cyrano de Bergerac feeding lines to the attacker.
Yes.
And when the technical barrier to entry drops to zero, the attackers stop focusing so much on breaking through complex network firewalls. They start focusing on the weakest link in any security system, the human mind.
And the data absolutely reflects this shift. Hyper-personalized phishing is now the #1 AI cybersecurity concern, cited by 50% of security professionals. We all remember the old spam emails.
Dear customer, your account is locked.
Right. They were riddled with typos and easy to spot.
Because it cost them time to make it personal. But AI makes hyper-personalization free and instant. It scrapes public data broker leaks, your social media, your public records.
Suddenly, the email isn't generic. It includes your real name, the specific branch of the bank you use, a reference to a recent online purchase you made, and the city you live in. It fabricates a completely plausible reality designed to make you act.
And we are seeing this move way beyond text. I mean, the most visceral example of this is the $25 million deepfake heist that hit a multinational company.
Oh, man. This story is the defining anecdote of this era.
It really is. So a finance worker at this company received a message from his chief financial officer about a highly confidential, urgent financial transaction. Now, to the worker's credit, that raised a red flag.
Yeah, he didn't just blindly click.
Right. So he did what we historically tell people to do. He sought visual verification. He requested a video call.
So he joins the video call. He sees his CFO's face. He hears the CFO's exact vocal cadence. He sees several other colleagues on the call nodding along and verbally confirming the plan.
And the CFO tells him to bypass the standard protocols and initiate the wire transfers immediately.
Right. So the worker authorizes the transfer of $25 million.
And then the twist drops. Every single person on that video call was a deepfake.
Everyone.
The video, the voices, the interactive responses, all generated by AI in real time. The scammers used AI to flawlessly replicate authority and social proof. The worker wasn't tricked by bad code. He was tricked by his own deeply ingrained deference to his boss's face.
It's a devastating exploitation of trust. Deepfake voice fraud alone is now reported by 40% of organizations. Criminals clone the voice of a CEO from a podcast or a public speech, call an employee directly, and demand immediate action.
So how on earth do you, the listener, defend against an enemy that can perfectly mimic your boss's face or your daughter's voice? We need to give you 3 crucial, non-negotiable defense steps to take away from this.
Absolutely.
Number 1, verify unusual requests through a completely separate channel. If you get a wild request on a video call or an email, hang up and dial the person directly on their known saved cell phone number.
Number 2, establish a verbal code word for high-stakes requests. This sounds incredibly analog, but it is deeply effective.
It's just a secret word. Yeah.
If your organization or your family, honestly, has a shared secret code word that is never typed into an email, it breaks the deepfake illusion immediately. The AI doesn't know the password.
And number 3, and this is perhaps the most important psychological defense, treat urgency and pressure as glaring red flags. Scammers always manufacture a crisis. Do this now, the deal is closing, your account will be deleted, don't tell anyone. Why do they always rely on urgency?
Because urgency is a biological weapon. It is designed to hijack your amygdala, the emotional center of your brain. Evolutionarily, when a tiger jumps out of the bushes, your amygdala floods your body with adrenaline and shuts down your prefrontal cortex.
Which is the part of the brain that handles logical reasoning?
Exactly. You don't do math when facing a tiger. You just act. The AI is mimicking the tiger, but in your inbox.
Wow.
The moment you feel panicked urgency, that is your biological cue to stop, breathe, and verify. You have to let your prefrontal cortex turn back on.
Okay, so we've covered how hackers use autonomous AI agents to batter down software defenses and how they use commercialized AI playbooks to perfectly manipulate human psychology. But what happens to the massive amounts of encrypted data they steal today that they currently cannot read?
Because they're stealing it by the terabyte.
Right. And that brings us to a mathematically terrifying future post-quantum cryptography.
We are shifting here from the immediate chaos of AI to the looming shadow of quantum physics. Let's ground this conceptually. Most of the encryption securing the modern internet, your banking apps, secure government databases, your encrypted messages, is based on incredibly hard math problems.
Right.
Specifically, prime factorization.
Okay, so if I ask you to multiply 5 times 3, you instantly say 15. It's easy to go forward.
Right.
But if I give you a massive 300-digit number and ask you to find the two specific prime numbers that multiply together to create it, a normal classical computer has to guess them basically one by one.
Yeah, it would take millions of years to solve it backwards. It's an unbreakable digital safe.
Under classical computing, absolutely. But quantum computers operate on qubits, leveraging a principle called superposition, right?
Exactly. The classical computer uses bits, ones, and zeros and processes information sequentially. But qubits are different.
And I always struggle to visualize superposition. How is a qubit different from a regular bit?
Think of a classical bit like a coin sitting on a table. It is either heads or tails, 1 or 0.
Right.
Now imagine spinning that coin. While it's spinning in a blur, is it heads or tails?
I mean, it's kind of both simultaneously.
Exactly. It's both simultaneously until you stop it. A qubit operates in that spinning state. Because of this, a quantum computer doesn't have to check mathematical pathways one by one. It can evaluate vast combinations of possibilities simultaneously.
So it can solve that massive prime factorization problem not in millions of years, but in seconds.
Yes. The mathematical foundation of modern internet security just evaporates.
Which brings up a really critical question. If they can't break the encryption today because quantum computers aren't fully viable yet, why are hackers bothering to steal all this lock data right now? Are they just acting like digital pack rats?
That is exactly the strategy. It is known in the industry as harvest now, decrypt later. Nation-state actors and highly sophisticated syndicates are actively siphoning up vast oceans of encrypted data today. They are paying for massive server farms just to store locked files they cannot read.
Because they know the Master P is coming. They are playing a long game, waiting for quantum computers to mature over the next 5 to 10 years.
Exactly.
Think about the implications of that. Encrypted medical records, financial histories, proprietary corporate IP, and classified government secrets stolen today could become completely readable in less than a decade.
The locked safe gets opened, and everything inside is perfectly preserved. This is why Gartner warns that organizations must prepare right now. The data is already being stolen. You cannot wait.
But the good guys aren't just sitting around waiting for the math to break, right? There has to be a defense. I know the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, recently published new post-quantum cryptography standards.
They did, yeah.
But I have to admit, I get lost in the weeds here. They talk about things like lattice-based cryptography. How is a lattice different from the prime number math we just talked about? Why does a quantum computer stumble on a lattice?
It's a great question because it explains how we fix the internet. The math trick that quantum computers use to break encryption, often referred to as Shor's algorithm, is highly specific.
Okay.
It relies on finding hidden repeating periods in numbers, which prime factorization is super vulnerable to. But lattice-based cryptography throws out factoring entirely. It uses geometry.
Geometry, like shapes.
Kind of. Imagine a massive pegboard, but instead of existing in 2 dimensions, it stretches across 500 dimensions.
Okay, my brain is hurting a little, but keep going.
I start at one peg, and I give you a complex set of directions to find another specific peg hidden in that 500-dimensional grid. Without the exact sequence of steps, you can't just calculate your way back to the start.
You get lost in the geometry.
Exactly. Quantum computers are incredible at finding patterns in numbers, but currently they are just as bad as classical computers at guessing geographic pathways in a 500-dimensional lattice.
So we are building a completely different type of maze that the quantum rat isn't built to solve.
That's a perfect way to put it.
The unpickable locks have been invented, now just a matter of installing them everywhere. For businesses listening, Gartner's mandate is to start a cryptographic inventory immediately. You need to map exactly what data you are encrypting and begin the migration to those NIST lattice standards.
Absolutely.
But what about the individual listener at home?
Your action item is less demanding, but equally important. Over the next few years, you're going to see a wave of quiet encryption updates rolling out from your banks, your email providers, and your device manufacturers.
So just update your stuff.
Yes. When you see infrastructure updates or deep security protocols being pushed to your devices, do not delay them. That is the post-quantum armor being deployed.
So let's step back and look at the whole board. We've journeyed through the massive shifts redefining 2026. We looked at Agentic AI, where autonomous machines hunt for vulnerabilities and chain exploits together 24/7.
Right.
We saw the commercialization of cybercrime, where prompt playbooks act as live earpieces to manipulate human psychology. And we looked at the post-quantum threat of harvest now, decrypt later.
And When you lay all of these realities out, the true through line isn't just artificial intelligence. The common thread binding them all together is speed.
Speed.
The speed of the attacks, the speed of the reverse engineering, the speed of human manipulation, and the speed at which the stakes are escalating.
It's an arms race that has completely broken the sound barrier. But, we promised at the start not to leave you with panic. Awareness remains the absolute best defense.
It really does.
By understanding how Agentic AI reverse engineers a patch, you know why you must update immediately. By understanding the biology of urgency and the reality of deepfakes, to hang up and verify, you fundamentally change how you interact with digital systems.
Exactly that. Just by listening to this deep dive and understanding the how and the why, you are already far ahead of the curve. You are no longer an easy target.
But I do want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, because this is where the philosophy of security really starts to bend under the weight of this speed.
Oh, this is the big one.
Yeah. If our digital security is rapidly becoming a landscape of autonomous AI agents fighting other autonomous AI agents at speeds humans can't even perceive, what happens when the human operators no longer fully understand the millions of micro decisions their own defenses are making every single second?
Right.
What happens when the battlefield moves so fast that human comprehension is the bottleneck we have to engineer our way out of? Keep your systems updated, verify those urgent requests, and keep learning. Until next time.